Welcome back, everybody, to Dudes Views. I'm Quentin Scott. It's Matt Layton. I've been doing this for a few weeks now, and we've been teasing this topic for a little bit. And so we're just going to talk about straight party voting, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the why or why not behind it. It's a topic that most people don't even really talk about and or focus on. Most people that do talk about it are the people that lose the election because they probably know that's why they lost it was straight party voting, or it's at least an easy excuse. And so, man, I don't know if you kind of want to discuss about like what straight party voting is and what it even kind of looks like on our tickets here in Oklahoma.
Sure. I mean, it's kind of it is what it sounds like, right? So if I go in to vote and I've got a whole long list of candidates for a variety of different offices, instead of going down and making a individual selection on each one of those, there's a nice and easy little selection on your ballot that says I want to vote for all the Republican candidates, or I want to vote for all the Democratic candidates, and you check that box. That's then a valid ballot. You don't have to make any other selections or decisions, and you turn it in, right? Straight party voting, and I think Quentin and I both have strong feelings one way or the other on this, but hey, we can be honest, right? It has positives and negatives from purely I would say a participation point of view, right? Makes voting a whole lot easier. Maybe I've got a full-time job and a family and kids, and government and politics isn't that exciting to me, and I don't have time to study up and inform myself on five, six, seven, 10, 15 different candidates. I can still go in there feeling like, I know this party's platform. I overwhelmingly agree with it more than another party's platform. I have some level then of being informed, and I can go in and cast that ballot and feel good about it. It probably also increases turnout because of that simplicity angle, right? We always talk about get out the vote. Democracy is a participation sport. The more people that cast their ballot, the better the decisions will be made for those areas. In theory, right? Increased turnout's always a good thing. We want as many or all the people out voting. Potentially, that straight party selection, because I don't get as overwhelmed. Maybe that increases turnout. And then again, we can probably say, you know, people love to belong to a team, right? Uh,
Yeah.
Party loyalty, team loyalty. I'm team red, team blue. I'm gonna go out and vote, right? So again, maybe that. So really, I'm thinking in terms of, it makes it easier. It gets more people out. It kind of makes it a little more competitive down on the individual voter level. At the end of the day, whether I like straight party voting or not, all those reasons are good reasons. It makes it easier for someone to be informed to make a selection, and it gets more people out to vote.
Yeah. And all those reasons add to why most people do it. And candidly, there's so many kind of elections now, and straight party voting doesn't actually answer state questions, which is one reason why it is scary because you can check that by it's the first, usually top left in your ballot. You mark that. As Matt said, it's a valid ballot then. But if you don't answer the state questions, then you just cast no vote for the state questions, which is why people in Oklahoma got so up in arms about the marijuana question, about other questions with felons voting and things like that. We just had this last election is well, when you straight party vote and you don't flip your ballot over and vote for your state questions, essentially you abstain from those state questions. And so, a little bit about my kind of feelings is state party voting kind of eliminates your need to know anything about it. The both parties aren't what they were even 8 years ago, 16 years ago. Definitely not what they were at the turn of the century. or millennia. And so Republican Party, Democrat Party, they don't mean what they used to mean. And so straight party or straight ticket voting to me is a little bit dangerous when we just kind of click, I'm red, I'm blue, or this is what I believe, because you may vote for someone. I know I voted for a registered Republican. I voted for Democrats because I feel like they were the right candidate to represent us. And, for governor, for state rep, for senators, things like that, because you listen to their campaign and you listen to their platform. Because necessarily, so not necessarily the party is always the one representing. And sometimes you'll have someone represent a party and their platform doesn't match that party's platform. You'll have a carpetbagger. Happens all the time. They wear this, they switch to try to get into an election, and then they'll be really towards the middle or even a little bit over the line, but they got the nomination, election, and now they're on the opposite side and doing things you didn't actually want them to do. But you casted a vote for them because you voted straight party and right down the ticket. And so, man, I think this is interesting. I just looked this up. It's from kosu.org. It says it's written by Keaton Ross of Oklahoma Watch. I just looked it up while Matt was talking. So we haven't fact checked it. We don't really, fact checking is a thing of the past apparently now from all the news. But anyway, it says just under 38% of Oklahoma voters who participated in the November 5th, 2024 election checked the option to vote straight party for either party. And that's down from 45.5%. So it seems like even people today are not taking the option to straight party vote. Do you think that's, I know I'm kind of throwing a stat at you that you haven't got to study or see, but do you think it's just people are more informed or just like not every candidate for every party represents the same thing for the party?
Yeah, and I don't know what that decline says, right? But you kind of stole a stat that I looked up and was gonna talk about too, right? So in 2020, that 45.5% of voters that hit that straight party voting option. And by the way, that's over 710,000 individual voters. That was the highest percentage of folks hitting that straight party voting in the last three previous presidential elections. So yeah, we did see that was 45.5%, which boggles my mind that roughly half the people are choosing that straight party voting option. But that was down to 38% in the most recent or 2024 um, election. And you know what? Maybe that does suggest that there's a shift from I don't always like all the candidates my party puts forward, and I've been burnt in the past, and now I'm going to look a little bit closer because you know first of all, I kind of went over some of what I say are the pros. Quentin jumped into kind of the cons or the negatives, and to me, really, that encompasses the first two negative points that I kind of thought up about the straight party voting. First is, we talked about this on a couple of episodes now, being an informed or educated voter. Yeah, while that does make it easier for me to go in and make my selection, it makes it easier for me to go in and make my selection, right? Because I'm not as informed. I probably don't know a majority of the people on that ballot who I'm going in there and, you know, offering an affirmative vote for. So that's dangerous, right? Whether you know or not, you still made the decision, and then you're held accountable for the next 2 or 4 years. And if you don't like what's going on, maybe then folks need to start looking in the mirror, right? As opposed to complaining, they made the choice whether they knew they were doing it or not. And the second one, I would say that this kind of limits that local focus. And I think this may get back to that declining percentage of straight party voting because say if I am a Republican, right, and I go in and I check the straight party voting for Republican lines, I'm probably thinking in terms of what I'm, hearing or seeing on the news, and most likely that's dominated by politics at the national level. And especially when we talk about the state and local races, many times the issues closest to you transcend national party lines, right? That's the the stuff that gets the headlines at the national level aren't what's affecting you locally, right? Those decisions aren't being made for you locally. Those
Yeah.
politicians that you're voting for on that straight party ticket because they're an R or a DM, because what you've heard at the national level, they're not going to be making the decisions that specifically impact you. So when we're making those straight party voting decisions, we just have to think in terms of, am I making this choice based upon what I know this person believes in the decisions they're going to be making for the state and local, or am I making this decision on what I think the national political party of choice is, standing for at the moment?
Yeah, and we've both run elections or campaigns that had elections that were in presidential years, election years, and non. And let's be honest, this kind of is a non-issue when it's in a non-presidential year because the ballot is exponentially shorter when there's not a president, governor, every district judge, every representative we have on there. Next year our ballot in Pontotoc County will be much shorter. I don't know what elections we have coming up next year. We'll have commissioner and school board, but not very many. But so straight party voting may not be that big of an issue there because again, to your point, you probably know everybody. But to another point, most of those elections should be nonpartisan. You shouldn't be looking at Republican or Democrat on a school board. You shouldn't be looking at Republican or Democrat in a kind of commissioner's office and things like
State
that.
right, and I think you hit it right on. Especially the more local the race is, at least from my perspective and what I strongly believe, the less political affiliation matters, should matter, or right, because I was involved in city or municipal government for a short period of time, and I did all I could to stay away from discussion points about Democrat, Republican. I'm like, this is a city. I mean, we're for the city, right? We're
Yeah.
we're not Democrats or Republicans. That these decisions about what road to fix or how much the water bill is going to be has no bearing on R's and D's.
Yeah, at some point you got to say like, no, I'm from Ada, I'm from Oklahoma. Like this, the R&D. I think you said it best. It kind of affects the federal level and the national parties. But when we let it kind of trickle into our local, municipal, even to our county and state governments, it can definitely muddy the water and get that ticket one way or the other. And for most, one way, whatever way you're straight party voting, you may be voting for tax cuts and for this and that, but you may also be voting for lower minimum wage or lower this and that because you've not really studied what does the Republican Party believe? What does the Democratic Party believe? Or what does the Libertarian Party believe? Because let's not forget that they also have a place on the ticket as well for straight party. And half of them, libertarians, don't have a candidate. So sometimes you're not even voting for that office because
The
there's not a
person,
libertarian for that one. So and I couldn't find the date when we implemented straight party voting. I was trying to look it up earlier and get in there. I think it's always been kind of just a practice that every election or every Democratic convention has had. Um, but the thing to me is this again, back to I say it's scary because I think it is it allows you to just pick a national party for your local uh, elections, and that's what we
yeah, and
focus
hey,
on.
that's that makes it easier and or harder depending on what your perspective is, right? If I was running the local Republican Party, I would love the straight party voting ticket because then I don't have to talk about individual candidates. I can again back up to that one of those benefits or pros that I was talking about, support party loyalty. I could just talk about the party, right? You're on our team, right? We're conservative. And you can just rattle off the party platform, ignore any of the races, any of the people, any of the platforms or positions of the people in the races, and just talk about that party, right? Because again, when Quentin was talking about the percentage of people that voted straight party, that was 38% in 2024. 70% of those folks voted for the Republican ticket. So I don't know what that says. That either says that everyone in Oklahoma votes Republican, or only Republicans like the straight party option. Maybe it says both. But what it does say is, like, me as a campaign operative, I know how I'm going to run that campaign, and I know how I'm going to win. I'm not going to talk about issues or candidates. I'm going to talk about the party.
Oh yeah, especially if your election's going to fall in 2028. I'm all about the party. I don't probably care about any individual issue, which then smoke and mirrors what you're actually going to do for the people you actually represent. Because let's remember, elections cover constituents and cover areas in which you're supposed to govern and help lead. So, straight party voting, in my book, is not something I've benefited from it. I've had an election that was running the presidential year. Luckily, our election for school boards are in April, so they get nowhere close to November, but primaries are in April. And, I think I said this in a former episode. A guy and I that serve on the school board together, we ran against each other and we had the highest turnout ever. And the superintendent at the time was like, "You guys are popular." And we were both realized, no, it was a presidential primary election. And people just went in and voted and saw our names on there. And so we were just on the ticket with the big fellas. And so,
It's tough.
good.
It's tough, right? Because I won an election one time in an off presidential year, and I knew from day one that get out the vote was going to be most important, because no one was going to go out and vote. It was a city council election. I think there may have been a school board or two, maybe a county commissioner primary. There were very few races. There may have been 4 or 5 races on the ticket, and I worked my butt off on just talking to people and making sure that they were going to get out and vote, because they wouldn't have otherwise. And I was running against an incumbent, and I had no shot at winning if only the regular, normal people went out to vote. So, I had to do a lot of work to get a whole new group of folks, my folks, out to vote, because it was an off election year and there was no big names on the ticket.
Yeah, which sounds like a great topic for a future episode. Is, do you vote in off season campaigns, which technically politics doesn't have an off season. Matt and I were talking about the other day, here in Oklahoma, was that one of our corporation commissioners or someone is running for lieutenant governor. So we're already seeing people gear up for our gubernatorial race. Governor Stitt, he's termed out. So who's going to run for governor? Who's going to run for lieutenant governor? We don't have it. Our ticket is not, they run together like president and vice president. They're actually voted independently, which makes it super awkward when they when the opposing parties lose or
Yeah,
win.
it's interesting for sure. So, and I just did a quick search, and I didn't find it either when Oklahoma added it. But what I did find in the state that shall not be named, our neighbors to the south, it looks like Texas had the practice, but it was abolished in 2020.
I never say we should follow what they do, but there's probably a part of me that's right now saying, hey, and we're aware this is not a popular topic. If you went and talked to every one of your elected officials and they were honest with you, they would probably say, if they're Republican, more than likely they rode a straight party vote for the majority of it, or their campaign manager would answer, yeah, we did exactly what Matt said. We knew how to play the party ticket and did it in a presidential run or gubernatorial run, which they're off season 2 cycles. So every 2 years we have either governor or president.
Yeah, this will have been either beneficial or detrimental to any and all politicians out there. So it's it's hard to have them make this decision, right? It's going to have to be the folks. It's going to have to be the people. And again, because it makes it more easy, because it's easier to be informed, because I don't have to think as hard. It's going to be difficult, and we can see. So in just this last legislative year in 2024, at least Senate Minority Leader at the time of Oklahoma, Julia Kurt. I don't know what her position is going to be in the upcoming Congress, but she introduced a new proposal to end straight party voting. There's a article in the Daily Oklahoma I found that talked about it. I mean, it didn't get very far, but at least the discussion is being had, and it's being talked about, and voices are coming forward, and all of the pros and cons in the debate when this was brought up are exactly what we're talking about here. So it's positive
Yeah.
that it's at least been talked about by our legislators here in Oklahoma.
Yeah, ultimately, I think at the end of the day, if straight party voting is removed off the ballot, it makes the candidate talk about the issues in which they're actually going to fight for and represent their constituents for and go to bat for
Yeah,
instead of writing in a party.
and I will say at least the debate over the idea of ending straight party voting that was brought up again. It's it's straight along party lines currently. Julia Kurt is a Democrat, Senate Minority Leader. Our state government is strongly and longly controlled by the Republicans, and of course it's an uphill battle, let's say, facing against the Republican controlled legislator in Oklahoma.
Yeah. And I'm not a popular Republican in the Republican circle saying let's get rid of it. But I just think it takes a kind of it. You said it. We've said it every episode. It takes away the ability for people to be an informed and educated voter, and it just gives them an option. I know I can go. I know I can check this box, or this box. I'm done, and I'm out of there. And
Well, we
so,
and I just think that again, whether you're for or against it, I'll say it. I don't think it's a good thing. I'm not for it, but I think that at least we should have the debate and the discussion on what are the benefits and what are the positives and what are the negatives, and does one outweigh the other, right? At the end of the day, if it's a net positive, great, leave it. I'll just have to agree to disagree. But at the end of the day, if it hurts more than it helps, I think it should be abolished, right? So I don't know the
yeah.
answer. I just know what I know.
Yeah, and Matt just mentioned this is if you want to stay on top of some of the issues we talked about, we get a lot of our news from the Daily Oklahoman. It's the just gonna say premier, but it's the main source of news that comes out of Oklahoma City, Capital News, anything like that. So you can get it free. You can subscribe. They're not a sponsor of ours, but it's a place Matt and I go to daily to look at stuff. Really where you can stay informed and up to date. And obviously, your local newspapers is where you can get a lot of that information. So, but with that straight party voting, that's kind of how we feel and what we thought. We may get into it more, especially as if these conversations actually gain any steam in the Senate floor and on in the House here in Oklahoma. And so, Matt, anything else to add?
Nope.
All right, y'all take it easy.